Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. We've got some really great surprises to share with you today. But to begin with, I'd like to say thank you so much, Chef Rulis, for having us here. It's going to be great to kind of chat with you and then spend some time in the kitchen and kind of just sharing with some of the creations that you're going to be sharing with us today.
It is my pleasure. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. So just to remind everybody, Chef Rulis is part of a collaboration for a dinner that I'm going to be throwing in my home as part of a fundraiser for a nonprofit organization here in El Paso. So we are honored to have you as part of that. And you know, there's always a beauty in collaboration. But before we get into the kitchen, you know, it was interesting. We were getting here today and Johnny, my videographer, was like, so where do you know Chef Rulis from? And it was like, I think it's just like an El Paso thing. Like, I couldn't think of exactly where it was, but like just both being in the community, like our paths crossed and, you know, at some point, like we know each other. We're here at Saison, which is one of your newer concepts. And then I just experienced Starlight for the first time for lunch last week. Incredible. And I've known you for your other, you know, concepts that you've had in El Paso. But just in conversations, I know how much of an impact your parents, both of your parents, had on you in your kind of just culinary escalation. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, definitely I owe everything to my parents.
Right.
My dad has an amazing palate. He's the one that was very adventurous when it came to eating. And my mom kind of had to follow him on that journey. And she learned how to cook when they got married, and she became an amazing cook. She was one of the best, and she could hold the line at the restaurant with the best of them.
I love that.
It was an amazing journey for her, you know, coming out of the home kitchen,
right,
you know, into a commercial kitchen, and there was a little bit of you know, of a learning curve at the beginning. We opened back in 2008, and so but you know, within a few months, definitely within the first year, she was a master on the lines.
Well, and I find it so interesting that your dad was the adventurous one, because I mean, typically, I don't know, I'm probably stereotyping, but you generally don't think of men as being the more adventurous in food, you know? And I guess the nice thing is that your mom was accommodating, so it kind of pushed her to kind of maybe expand her thinking around food.
Indeed, and it forced her to cook things that she didn't like. You know, and to try things that in her head like didn't make sense.
Right.
You know, but I have a ton of stories like that where, you know, she could be looking at me like, what are you doing? You know.
Give us an example. Give us an example of that.
Well, one of our really famous dishes was the shrimp tacos.
Okay.
And that was a dish that I'd come up with while I was living in Houston in my previous life as a private banker. And one day I came in and I said, okay, we're going to do this taco as a special. I had cooked it for tons of parties in Houston, and I knew people liked it, but it had a mango salsa. And my mom could not put mango and a corn tortilla together. Like, in her mind, that just did not make sense. You don't mess with that flavor. And she was like, you're crazy. And I said, no. I was like, this is really good, trust me. And so we put them on for a week, and then after we took them off and put something else, customers would come back and say, hey, you need to put that taco back on. And my mom was like, why are they asking for the taco? I was like, Mom, it's a good taco. I showed her, I cooked it twice for her, and then from that moment on, she cooked them by herself. I didn't have to give her any additional instructions.
Right.
Towards the end of that month, we had it now 3 weeks on the board as a special, and every ticket that came in had a shrimp taco. And my mom would just get so upset about that. She'd be like, why are they ordering it? It doesn't make sense. And one day, someone, you know, got fed fat fingers, and they put in an extra order. And I was like, no worries. I was like, I'll eat that myself. And my mom was like, like, finally I'm gonna try it, and then you're gonna eat them. And I said, oh, by all means, you need to try it. I was like, I'll make myself, something else. And she took one bite, and then she was like, oh yeah, they're good. I was like a whole month.
Oh my goodness. Well, and that probably opened doors for her as well. You know what I mean? Like trying that. First of all, just to, sometimes all we need is confidence. You know what I'm saying? And to try something that was outside of her wheelhouse and for it to be so good. And then, maybe that's a whole new kind of flavor palette that she hadn't even considered. And so now she's got all these kind of tools to, even grow, even more. So I love that. So, you were talking about just kind of the general influence of both of your parents. Can you think of kind of like the takeaway that you got growing up with them, being around their cooking? What's the takeaway from that you have carried into your own, cooking and professional practice and, the things that just motivate you for what you do?
I mean, the love of transforming food, and then tasting it and the patience of, like what we're going to do today, braised.
Right.
There's no, instant gratification.
Right.
And so that to me is magical.
Right.
And I love that part of it. But more than cooking, I think it was more like the coming together,
right?
Because
exactly.
My dad every weekend over the summer, he was a grill guy. So, he still to this day, he loves arrachera. It's on our menu because of my dad.
Right.
And it's one of those dishes that he cooked every weekend.
Right.
And my cousins and my uncles and aunts and everybody would come over to the house. And so it was always a reunion of some sort.
Right.
And it didn't matter what we were doing. Every meal we had together, and I think that's something that gets lost, in this culture that, we eat alone so many times, we eat on the go so many times, but really being with family, eating together, there's a health benefit to that.
Of course.
Yeah. And you enjoy it more. And so my takeaway was really the enjoyment of not only the food, but the moment.
But the act of gathering, just the act of gathering is so important. We see people today, our lives have just gotten, and I mean, I admit this to myself, chaotic. There's so much going on, and it's like, unless you take the focus to slow down and to enjoy, it just doesn't happen naturally. And I love the idea of letting food be the catalyst for taking that moment. My gosh, I see people eating on a device, and I'm like, they don't even know what they're eating. You know what I mean? They're going to get through an entire meal, and later that afternoon couldn't even tell you what they had because they weren't even thinking about it. Well, when you were telling that story, you used two words. You used love and magic, and I love both of those because I think they're the best ingredients for good food, right? I tell you what, let's head back to the kitchen and have some fun.
Let's do it.
Alrighty. So, Chef, thanks again for having us into your kitchen. It's always an honor when a chef welcomes us in. Before we get started here, talk us through the three things we're going to be doing today.
Okay, so today we're going to be doing elevated Southwest meal.
We like elevated.
Yes, we're going to do a grilled nopal salad.
Okay.
And then our main dish is going to be a play on beef bourguignon, but we're going to add some chilies to it and really intensify, that richness that you can only get from the Southwest. And we're going to serve that up alongside some calabacitas, but we're going to spiralize the squash, give it a little bit different texture, different look.
I'm already hungry. Yeah. All right, so there we have it. Let's get started.
All right.
Cool.
So we're going to start with the short rib. So I already did what they call a dry brine.
Okay.
And the dry brine pulls out some of the water water dilutes flavor, so it just basically, we're trying to intensify the flavor that we have.
So does the dry brine, does that make it salty, or do you do something to kind of reduce the saltiness once it's taken that moisture out of the meat?
Well, that's what we're gonna do right now. We're actually just gonna go ahead and pat it dry, remove some of that excess salt. Some of it goes into the meat to season it, especially these cuts that are a little bit thicker.
Right.
They need a little bit more time. You can do 24 hours. This one I just did a couple of hours.
Nice.
So you definitely want to do this step. So we're gonna go ahead and just pat those dry. We're already heating up our pan. We're gonna do a medium heat on this one. We don't want it ripping hot. We don't want to burn anything. We want to build the crust on our meat, and then we're gonna build flavor off of that.
Okay. Tell me about this pan. When I came over here and just out of curiosity went to lift this lid, I literally thought the lid was stuck. It's so heavy.
This is my mise en rondo. It's cast iron with enamel over it.
Wow.
It's a super heavy pan, beautiful for braising.
Nice.
You know, I got it kind of exclusively for that, although I make paella in this thing as well. All right, so we're just gonna add a little bit of oil.
You said medium heat on this.
Medium heat, yes. Depending on what you're doing, sometimes you want it ripping hot, but not on this one. And so what we just want to do is do a light coat.
This is just flour?
This is just flour. We just want to lay those down there. And again, we want the crust to develop, but we don't want anything to burn, because burn stuff gives you a funky flavor.
Right. Though I am a fan of char when it's in the right context.
There's a difference between char
and burn. So tell me about these cuts. This is just short ribs?
This is short rib.
Okay.
It's very rich. It's a great cut. It just takes time to break down.
Right.
I tell people cooking is the closest thing to magic that you're gonna get in this world, because you're taking simple ingredients, you're adding heat, and you're creating something magical.
Not only magic, but as my food journey continues to unfold, because I'm one of those people that I've always been curious and fearless, so I'll try anything. But as I try to kind of hone my skills, it's not only magic, but there's like science to cooking.
Oh yeah.
And I like, as I meet chefs and I see what people are doing in kitchens, it makes me realize the importance of that science, because there's just certain things you need to do to get the results you want.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're searing this. This is not part of the cooking process. This is a preliminary, or where are we with this?
Yeah, so this one, we want to develop the crust. The crust is flavor. This is not gonna cook our meat, by any means, but there is gonna be a little bit of fond at the bottom, and that's flavor. So
Got it.
we just basically want to create as much of that crust, because that's just gonna give us a solid flavor profile, and then there's gonna be texture.
I love it
in there.
I've also learned in my journey, sometimes what's left in the pan is the best tasting element of what you're doing.
Yeah, no, you don't want to waste anything, for sure. One of the things I tell people, especially the new cooks that I get to train, I tell them patience really is what makes the difference between a good cook and a great cook.
Right.
There's a lot of people that want to be shaking the pan or messing with the food,
right,
because they think it's gonna do something, and it's like, no, it's not. You just need to give it time. You need to let it rest. You need to let the heat and the pan do their job.
I think what you're referring to, like, there's a lot of maybe television and celebrity influence, where you want the action and the activity and all of that, and maybe it's not always necessary, right?
Right. Yeah. Especially some of these older, like more classic dishes. They just take time. And,
right.
And I tell people that love is an ingredient, right?
Right.
And time is the only thing that you can't get back.
Exactly.
So when you're spending the time, taking the time to do this, then that's really showing love. And that's where that love kind of comes in.
I love that you're referencing love. I was in Oaxaca in May of this year for a mole cooking class. They referenced love in the process, and it was 3 hours. I mean, mole making, like from start to finish with what we did, it was 3 hours, and we were doing stuff the entire time. Like, so there's no rushing when you're doing something like that,
Right.
You know?
Like cooking, I started seriously cooking around 15.
Nice.
That's when my dad, he used to go to this sushi place out on the east side, and he would go 2-3 times a week. He became friends with the sushi chef that was Japanese, and after about a year of going there every week, you know, he had like picked up a few pointers from it and everything. And so my dad came home one day with the sushi making kit. He had, you know, the rice, he had vinegar, the rolling mat, he bought everything.
Wow.
And I love sushi too. Like, that was my thing. And so we learned how to make it that day, and that kind of,
I love it. You know what? I love sushi too. Huge fan. And I think it's one of those things, and you've spoken to this a few times, but like the simplicity of it. You know what I mean? And it's just like getting it right, but yet simple. And it's just so good. I also loved wasabi, good wasabi. So I've always said sushi is like, it's like a vehicle for wasabi. So my mom was a big canner growing up.
okay.
And it's really interesting. I think back to my childhood, and we literally had like a Pinterest perfect pantry lined with jars of home canned goods.
Yeah.
And you know, growing up with it, it's like, I just thought everybody did it. You know what I mean? Because that's the way we did it, right? And I tell everyone, I think 90% of my mom's dishes started with a jar of canned tomatoes. Like that was like the base for everything she did. Honey, get me a jar of tomatoes. You know, like that was how it all started.
Yeah. That's awesome. So much has been lost. You know?
Right.
I hear,
And what is this?
oh, this is wine, red wine.
Red wine, okay. So what type of red wine?
This one is Malbec, actually.
Nice. And just like an out of the bottle Malbec.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. You don't want anything too expensive. You don't want anything cheap either. Okay, and here's where we start to do things a little different. So I'm just putting in, it's about 4 guajillos, dried guajillos. And I already...
And a guajillo, is that a type of chili?
It's a type of chili.
Got it.
And then we're going to use pasilla.
Okay.
And so pasillas are dried poblanos.
Nice.
But when they dry out, they get this sweetness, kind of like a raisin,
Yeah.
like a...
Well, I think of poblanos as sweet.
Yeah.
Like I think of a poblano chili as sweet. So regionally, where the first chili was what'd you call it? A
Guajillo.
Guajillo. Where are they from?
Guajillos, I mean, now they grow everywhere.
Nice.
All chilies originated in what is now Mexico,
Right.
you know, and Central America.
God, that's gorgeous.
And yeah, we're just gonna do that. We're gonna fish these out later, and then we are gonna throw back into the...
Got it. So the purpose of roasting the poblanos is it's a flavor. It's for flavor.
Yeah, you wanna
Got it.
encourage the oils,
Got it.
you know, to come out and play.
You mentioned, it smells like a tortilla. So my I'm an only child. Both of my parents worked, so I had a nanny from Delicias. And the two things I remember that she did that just made an impression on me were tortillas and bizcochos. And I remember exactly how the house smelled when she was doing either one of those things.
Yeah. No, that's the beauty about it.
Oh, it's amazing. She had a sister that would come visit. Her name was Lila, and her sister's name was Celia. And when Lila and Celia would start making bizcochos, like the entire house smelled like bizcochos. I loved it.
Managed to get them all in here.
Love it.
All the juice goes back in. You don't want to completely submerge them.
Got it. So chicken broth.
We're doing chicken, and this is what I had.
Got it.
You can do beef.
We're not breaking some cardinal cooking sin by using chicken broth in a beef dish.
If you don't have that and all you got is water, then use water.
Exactly.
And then just, salt it more.
Right.
This already has some salt in it.
Dig the bouillon out of the back of the cabinet. Get some of that in.
Get some of it in there. It's good stuff. So we're gonna, again, I'm not turning up the heat on this one. I'm just gonna let it naturally at this level come up to a simmer.
Nice.
Once it comes to a simmer, then I'll turn it down to very low, cover it, and then that's when our
nice
3 hour,
got it, magic,
3.5 hours will render all of this down. And we're gonna try our best to keep the bone on there just for presentation.
Right, but I can imagine it gets so tender.
It might just fall off.
I need to get a cast iron pot. You've inspired me. Like I can tell by this, like there's so many variations. You know what I mean? It's like once you kind of get the feel of how it all goes together, then like the creativity can kick in.
Right.
Oh,
because you can do this with chicken.
Right.
And it'll take an hour.
Right.
Versus 4.
Alrighty.
And we cover
See you in 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours. So nopales are very slimy. They have that slimy texture. You can use that to your advantage, or if you don't like the slime, you can always blanch them, and that'll take some of that sliminess off.
What's a nopale without a little slime?
It's part of it's part of it. All right, so we're just gonna put these in a basket. So the nopales and the tomatoes will take a bit, but the romaine will get color right away.
God, that smells good. It's so fragrant.
Mm-hmm.
It almost has that like green chili roasting smell.
It's something special.
Something about
sure.
that.
Yeah. There's an episode where I saw Gordon Ramsay just berating a chef because he grilled romaine, and I was like, why is he berating this guy?
Right?
It's like, this is delicious stuff. And this is served cold. I usually serve it, room temperature.
Nice.
I like to get the flavors, roasted on there and stuff. But once those flavors are roasted, then you're good.
Nice.
So it is it is rustic. It's a rustic presentation, and I'll let those go for a bit.
Okay.
And this one, you have 2 choices on this one. You can either like serve it like the pieces of lettuce with these on top, or this can be just chopped up as well.
Got it. And mix it all
and
together.
Then mixed all together.
Got it.
Either or.
It's amazing how the roasting just elevates the flavor.
Mm-hmm. I've done this salad many times for caterings, for special dinners, because you're able to showcase, something that people would never really think about, grilling that stuff. But like the heat just brings out, there's like a flavor that, like I would say it's umami, just because you can't pin, you can't pin.
Right.
exactly, but it works. It is. For the competition, when I did Alex versus America, I breaded them in masa. So I got blue corn masa, and since they were slimy, I was like, well, that's perfect because that'll be my binder.
You know, they gave you your parameters of what it was about. Were you able to like go shopping for what you needed, or how did that work?
They basically, they give you they give you an idea. They said you need to work on dishes. So I knew it was Southwest, like that. They said you know the Southwest better than anyone. Like just practice Southwest recipes that you can cook in 40 minutes and 30 minutes and 20 minutes. Just like have a few that you can do. And I was like, okay, cool. And so what I did to practice was I would cook dinner at home with my daughters running around.
Right.
And, you know, yelling for me to do something, or, you know, so as many distractions
As possible.
And I think that helped me, you know, kind of get ready for
Right.
for what we were doing there. And then they give you the ingredients that you need to use and how you need to use them, but they have a pantry. So
Got it.
you could go and you could get all sorts of meat. You could get chicken, pork.
So they had nopales in their pantry?
They did.
Nice.
Yeah, they did. So I grabbed those and I roasted them up. I mean, I fried them up with the breading on them.
Nice.
So this little machine,
This is our spiralizer. Love it. Beautiful.
Yeah, so you get this really nice, you know, it looks like
Beautiful.
little noodles, and then, you know, we'll set our piece of meat right here with the sauce, and this has some corn that goes with it.
Oh, nice. Have you ever figured out a dish that involves like the core of the squash once you've spiralized it? It just seems like
This one?
It's such a funky little thing. There'd be something cool you could do with it.
Yeah, we've played around with it. I mean, we usually just end up throwing it in like a soup or something.
Right.
But yeah,
Cool.
yeah, it does have a cool
Just kind of a cool, yeah.
shape to it. Then we just let that one cook down a minute.
Awesome.
That's it.
Cool. Thank you so much for being with us today. I hope our time with Chef Rulis in his kitchen has given you some inspiration. It has certainly inspired me. Don't forget to keep watching, because our next episode, you're gonna see the end result of these collaborations coming together with the dinner that I'm gonna be serving in my home. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Treat you like you do.